Welcome to the Only in Movies podcast. I'm your host, Onari, coming to you from Austin, Texas.
And I'm your host, Amato, coming to you from Buffalo, New York. And in this podcast, we break down scenes and discuss things that happen only in movies.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome back, listeners. How you doing? Hello.
Please make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Only in Movies Pod to find out what movie we'll be covering on our upcoming episodes. Watch ahead with us and send us your suggestions for scenes that you think should make the Only in Movies list, and also for a chance for your suggestions to make it on the show.
So, this week's movie, A Quiet Place. It's actually currently available for streaming on Hulu. If any of you guys want to watch it beforehand, you can pause right now.
Right
Go
now.
to Hulu, come back, and see what we did.
Make sure you come back.
Right, that's the important part. If you're not going to come back, don't pause. Just keep going.
Right.
So, directed by John Krasinski, starring Emily Blunt, John Krasinski, yes, the director was one of the stars, Millicent Simmons, and Noah Jupe. And literally, that's pretty much the entire cast. There's a couple of other people here and there.
There's like
This
one or
is
two.
pretty much it. Yeah. This is pretty much it. Quick description of the movie. In a post-apocalyptic world, a family is forced to live in silence while hiding from monsters with ultra-sensitive hearing. I know that was very quick and succinct, but that's kind of how this movie was.
Yes, he really used the operative word quick there for that description.
Yeah.
I had a couple of things I wanted to discuss before we got into it.
Well, real quick, this movie cost $17 million and made $340.
Yes. So that was 340 worldwide, US 188. And that's a damn success if you ask me.
Right.
They made that movie on pennies compared to what it made.
Right.
Following up on that, this was actually, as the model covered, John Krasinski was the director, and this was his first major directing role. So he's done other smaller like indie films, but this was the first one that kind of put him on the map as a director, and I'd say he had a damn good start.
Right, yeah. If this is how you're going to start it, you might, yeah.
I'll also have some questions from you. Before we started recording, you asked me if I knew that he was actually the director, because you noticed that he was the star as well, and I definitely did. I'm a huge John Krasinski fan.
You're a huge everybody fan. You just love
everyone.
No,
that is a lie.
You love everybody. People come up to me and they be like, "Man, your partner really loves Tom Cruise." And I'm like, I know. It disturbs me.
It's not just Tom Cruise. I have a couple of other obsessions as well.
So
I spread my obsession.
Yeah. So John, go ahead.
John, see, but this is a different love. This is from TV. See, switching it up on you. Did you ever watch The Office?
No.
All right, so that's where I first saw John acting. I'm sure many of the listeners know about The Office. I'm sure you've heard, you know about it as well.
Of course.
You never watched it.
My daughter watches it. The younger one.
Yeah, it was a great show. Steve Carell. So when I saw that he was, this movie was coming out, at first I didn't know he was directing it, but then, I discovered that he was directing, and then I became really interested in it. And then I noticed that the person starring alongside him was Emily Blunt. Did you know that's his wife?
I did not. No.
Yes.
You know way more about these people than I do.
So I found that funny. I was like, no way. They have both of them starring together as a couple.
Well, I guess that's how you keep the budget low.
Just keep it in the family.
Right, yeah. So I'm going to pay you on the back end. And
so I actually found out, after the movie was done and I watched it, I was intrigued by it. I enjoyed it and I read up on it. And she actually didn't want to star in it because I guess, for the obvious reasons that people might think, oh, I don't want to be in my maybe husband's first film,
Right.
But then she read the script and she was like, no, yeah, I got to do this. So it just made sense. I think it was pretty natural for them. If you look at the plot of the movie.
Yeah, you could tell that there definitely was chemistry. So that's an interesting,
right?
Yeah, that's an interesting little fact there.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to tell me you're Krasinski?
Just one last thing I thought was funny as well. Again, after reading up on the movie, once I came out of the theaters, he actually, and this is maybe another reason why the budget was low. He was the monster in a few scenes, so he was like in a. So yeah, 17 million. It makes sense.
That's a hustle.
He also held the boom mics between.
You made that up, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm fucking around.
Okay.
But that was believable, right? Almost got you.
Yeah. Once you dressed up like the monster.
Yeah. What else? He was PA. He was doing everything.
Okay, that's interesting. So this was my second time seeing this movie. The first time I didn't see the end, and
Whoa, interesting. Oh, well, how far? Like, where did you stop?
I stopped before the grain elevator or before the corn elevator.
Got
and
it.
then Liz told me about the end. And I was like, okay. Because I wasn't as into John Krasinski as you are. All right. But seeing it play out was
Your
actually,
loss.
it was a little
Your
more
loss.
interesting seeing it play out. But we'll discuss.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So, do you want to start off with your first scene?
Okay, so my first scene is actually like the first scene in the movie. In the supermarket with the rocket ship.
Yes, that is my scene as well.
I kind of figured. Because... okay, so first off,
I had so many questions.
Me too. Okay, all right. So the kid takes the rocket ship. First off, the kid obviously knows that if he makes noise, something's gonna happen, right?
So that wasn't explicitly told. It seemed like they were still kind of getting him to understand that fully, I would say.
Yes and no, because he still wasn't talking. What kid his
That's
age
true.
doesn't make any noise? I have an 11-year-old boy. I can't get him to be quiet. And he wasn't 11, but 6, 7,
Let's rewind
5. Go ahead.
He's what you would say preschool age, maybe 3
Yeah.
or 4. Well, we know he's 4 actually because they show like later on his age. It was like about 4 years. So he's
Okay.
preschool age. So yeah, what preschool age kid doesn't make noise? You're right. So he had a level of understanding that he's supposed to be quiet, but maybe not I don't know if you can convey to a 4-year-old the severity of the repercussions of him not being quiet. You know what I mean?
Right, and then to this point, we don't know if he's ever seen the monsters,
That's
or
another good point too.
we don't know if he's seen someone be eaten by the monsters.
Yeah, because they start off with 89 days, so you know that it's relatively recent.
Well,
The occurrence started.
that's where it starts at 89.
Yeah, so it starts off at day 89. That's what the opening scene is, and then after what happens on the bridge, then it fast forwards to day 400 and something.
473. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I don't know. I think I might have missed it. It starts at 89. Either way.
Yeah. So that still ties into our understanding that maybe he didn't have a full, like you said, understanding of the monster, or he's never seen them, the severity, et cetera, et
Or
cetera.
he
But
may
he's
have.
still-
We don't know. Because if it's
We
been
don't-
89 days since it started, at 4 years old, at 3, 4 years old, if you see somebody get eaten by a monster, it's probably been on TV. Like, we don't know what's happened. So he might have seen something, but that's fine.
But my qualm is, what is the likelihood of a preschool age kid being 100% careful 100% of the time?
100%, right. Well, we're
Why
gonna.
risk
I think
that?
we'll discuss this too as we get into the baby. But that's
Yeah. So my thought was in that scene was like they're letting this kid run around the store, the little grocery store or whatever convenience store, knowing very well,
they should have put a leash on his ass.
right, tied him down, or keep him in your sights, take him with you if you must. The whole time I was thinking, why take that risk with a toddler?
So the dad takes the batteries out, puts the rocket ship. The sister gives him back the rocket ship. He puts
Wait.
Okay.
He takes the batteries out, but he leaves them
right next to the
the toy.
rocket.
And then he
Yes.
proceeds to leave the kid out of your
Yeah,
sight.
Right.
So that, again, this is a child. You didn't exactly make it difficult for him to grab the toy again.
And the batteries. Because if he would have grabbed the toy and just bounced, it would have been a big deal. Because without the batteries, it's not a problem.
Why not just take the batteries with you, or even take the toy and disable the sound? And they actually do that later on in the movie.
That's what pissed me off too. She cut that. Wait, that was an option? Why didn't she just do that from the beginning? It didn't take her. They were
Right.
in a drugstore with tons of different supplies, and I'm sure there was something sharp. She could have just cut the sound.
He had
real
a
quick.
multi-tool. He had just given her a multi-tool. That killed me. He literally handed her a multi-tool, and the next moment after, they see the toy. That's how the movie progressed. I was like, wait. So you had a tool right there to unscrew the damn thing.
and the knowledge of how to do it.
Yeah, that's another thing, because she should have been a bomb diffuser, because she went right to the right cable and
It was
cut
like,
it, and the
boop.
lights kept working. Yep.
But no sound, not a single noise. So then he grabs the rocket ship, puts the batteries back, then proceeds to wave it around his head like a helicopter. And he kind of deserved to be eaten.
You don't want to say that, right? Like it feels bad to
No,
say that, but
I
yeah,
do.
he did.
I do want to say it. I have it written
He
down.
said it. What is
Kid
that?
kind
So
of deserved it.
I give the movie credit because that was a rough way to start the movie.
It was dramatic.
Yeah, it was very
Yes.
dramatic. Usually you don't see little kids being like the main person to die right off unless the movie is about like redemption or something like that. But this was just like I said, drama from the beginning, and you felt for them because he couldn't do anything. He really tried. So in that same scene, when they left the convenience store, I was like, why are they having the kids walk behind them? First off, they walked out to the convenience store and they're walking for a while, and they never looked back at the kid because the kid had the toy in his hands. He was like flying it around. He wasn't exactly being low, like, playing under his jacket or something. No, he was like you said, he was waving it around his head. And I'm like, they've made it now into the woods and no one has looked back to see if the kids are even still there. They were looking for shit to happen in this movie, it seemed like.
Very much. I think that was a recurring thing too. I think there was a lot of things they could have avoided, but why not? I also didn't know if he kind of understood at least a little about the sound thing. As soon as it made a noise, why he didn't fling it as far as possible.
Right. So it does beg the question, did he really understand? Even when the dad was running to him, he didn't seem
right.
concerned.
He wasn't like, what's gonna happen? Why does dad look so concerned?
Yeah. It was bad.
And this was the second time I saw this movie. And the first time I saw it was probably a week after we started this podcast. So I was watching it with the Only a Movie eyes. And as soon as I saw the scene, I was like, oh, if we ever do this movie, this is on the list.
Yeah, that's the way, for the listeners, that's the way we watch every movie nowadays. and to be fair, that's the way I've watched movies forever. Now we just have somewhere to actually discuss this.
We have an outlet, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it was just bad.
It was dramatic, though. It was a very dramatic.
It was well done,
start
yeah,
to the
definitely.
movie. Yeah,
because when I first saw it, I saw this movie in the movie theaters. I was honestly expecting for the kid to be rescued at the last second, or for a fight to kind of break out. I was not expecting for just complete annihilation that way.
Yeah, that was nuts. Yeah. So what's your scene?
So we have some overlap in that scene. That was my scene as well. My next scene is when Marcus, which is he's the oldest boy.
The oldest son, right?
Now so the only boy.
Real quick, let's just break it down because there's 4 freaking characters. Evelyn's the mom, Lee's the dad, yes. Reagan's the sister, Marcus is the brother. That's all you need to know, everybody.
Yeah, because Bo's dead.
Bo didn't make it past the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's it. So go ahead, Marcus.
An old man in the woods. That's the only other character wife, in the movie. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And we'll get to Mr. Old Man.
Screamy.
Oh, Jesus. So Marcus is walking back to the house after setting off fireworks. They came back from collecting fish or something. And he set off fireworks to distract from the mom being in the house.
Yep. Because she put on the red light to let them know that she was in
which
danger.
I thought was a pretty dope system. But
right.
when she flipped that switch and everything went red, I was like, they're really well prepared, to be fair. So he's walking back after creating a distraction, and he hears a monster in the corn stalks. And instead of, staying still or walking slowly, backwards or trying to hide, he starts running.
Through the bushes. He
starts running. Right. So they have sand. For those that might have not seen the movie, they had another great system. Like I said, they were really well prepared. I was impressed. They had sand from a nearby beach, and they had laid it out all over where they normally walk so that they can soften their footsteps. They were muffling their footsteps with the sand, which was great. They even had it all the way down to the convenience store, and I don't know how far exactly it was, but it seemed pretty far. But then again, when you have a beach and you have time, you can do these things.
And it might not have been just them. Other people might have contributed to that infrastructure over time, knowing that this was a danger. People just started throwing sand wherever they could to muffle feet and sounds and things of that nature.
That's a great point. I didn't even consider that it was like a concerted effort between other people. But again, instead of staying on that sand path, he starts running through the cornfields, which make the most possible sound as you're running through them, and also kind of leave a trail of exactly where you're going. I was like, come on, kid.
Well, I think there's 3 things too. If you haven't seen the movie, for you to understand, the monsters are blind, have armor, and attack sound. So
yes,
what Denard
not
saying
just like
is
light sound.
correct.
They have super hearing.
Right. Super hearing. But they can't see you. So they're relatively easy to creep away on if you just don't make no noise.
Right. And they know this.
But if you go running through a bush, they're going to find you.
The entire time in the movie, when they have made some noise, the first thing they all do is freeze and stop making noise.
Right.
So why he now decided to run off didn't make any sense to me. So he runs through the cornfields, makes a bunch of noise, and then bumps into a tire of a tractor there and just hangs out. So yeah, luckily he didn't get, killed immediately, which I also found surprising. Because
Right, that didn't make any sense to me. That was one of those things. He made all the noise in the world and nobody attacked him.
Right, but then like raccoons were passing by and they got, slaughtered.
Smashed. Right. That's another thing with this movie that was, I think, consistently, I didn't understand. The level of sound that caused a reaction was not consistent.
No. And I thought about that too, because I was like, my daughter wakes up with my foot cracks when I'm walking out of the room and they can't hear the dude walking through the cornfield and hitting a tractor.
Right.
With his whole body and falling down, and nothing even came near him. I was like, I have to sneak out like a goddamn bandit just to not wake her up. But apparently these guys...
That, yes, again, there was inconsistencies in the hearing levels. That was consistent for me, that inconsistency.
It was consistently inconsistent.
Right. Couple of things before we get to the next scenes.
Okay.
I hated that it told me the days. It's day 89 and day 473, but it didn't tell me from what. Did I miss that, or was it me? Like, from the first death, from the meteor. I know the meteors hit. But what was it the day from? From complete annihilation, from when the government fell? That I didn't love.
Yeah, it was a vague, like, survival days. So yeah, I don't know exactly. I mean, the one thing I saw was the newspaper flapping when they were coming out of the convenience store. It says it's sound, kind of giving
right.
You
And
that
then if
clue.
as they showed you in the basement, there were different newspaper clippings that you could get information from. I felt like I didn't get enough backstory. That was one of my things.
I mean, the 89, I just assumed to be from like, what do you call this? Like day 0, maybe from the land, when they showed up, those beings.
Right. Yeah. I also have to note that you can't be on your phone during this movie. It just does not work.
No.
It is not the movie
You
for
cannot.
that kind of stuff.
And I think that was actually, in the movie theater at least, it was a very immersive experience.
Yes, I can see that.
Because it's, you do have sign language as well. Like you said, you'll miss it if you're not looking. So it makes you want to kind of just pay attention very closely. And then the soundscape of the movie with it, including deaf characters and also just being focused about sound, it was pretty awesome when you're in a movie theater to hear nothing, if that makes sense.
It does, and I'm gonna talk about that. We'll discuss that a little more as we get into like overall views and stuff. But my last thought before we go into our next scenes is I would have been eating day one. I'd have been done. The whole Figueroa clan,
you ain't making it.
My kids, my dad, my sister, my brother, my girlfriend, her entire family. We're all
that would have been a feature
gone.
In the news. It'd be like, surprisingly, an entire family has been wiped out.
One fell swoop.
Even though they were not located anywhere near each other. We have our first victims.
Yes. That would have been all of us. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty hilarious. We would have not made it.
I think New York City people would have been dead too.
Yeah. New York City as a whole was probably the first city to
they
go.
They would have flocked there.
Yeah. I would have like, oh my God, these people are idiots. We're going to get them. They can't be quiet. Watch. So my next scene is actually not till towards the end of the movie. Again, the different levels of sound, which gets the monster's attention. When the dad, so this is towards the end of the movie where the kids are in the car and the dad is trying to protect them, right?
Right.
He wanders on a bunch of tools. Why can't he just take the tools and throw them elsewhere to make a loud noise somewhere else to distract the monster?
I discussed the movie after it came out, and that was something that came up often in discussions. And it was pretty blatantly a plot hole there where it's like, why? First of all, he had multiple tools that he could use.
There was a
pitchfork, there was an axe, he had like chains.
There had to be a shovel, probably.
He could have thrown things.
He could have made a cacophony of sounds.
Yeah, he could have been playing, like he could have been one of the street drummers, just go in.
But instead he screams. Oh no, he didn't scream. He slaps the axe on the floor.
No, he screams.
He screams towards the end. The first time he gets hit, he hits the axe.
That was fair. I think that's fair because he pulls the axe out of like the barrel and then he realizes the monster's right above him. So he didn't have much time to react in that.
Okay, instance. I'll take that. But if he would have just took the axe and just flung it somewhere else immediately, the monster might not have been above him anymore.
Might not.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess he was waiting to make sure where they are. I'm like, doesn't matter. Make any sound in any direction.
Anywhere else. That's my whole point. That is my whole point.
You don't
So
have
then
to
he
wait to spot them
screams.
or whatever.
Right, he survived. He has a view of the situation now. He knows the kids are in trouble. He could still throw the axe against metal, something, make a loud noise.
He could have
jump
thrown
in
the axe right back into that shed, make a whole bunch of noise. Things
Ton of
would have
noise.
rattled. Yeah.
and just been
And
good.
they could have done the same thing, maybe. Yeah. He could have at least maybe run towards the kids and hope, try to help them closely,
Right.
or run towards the house and go get a better weapon. Options. He would have just opened up a couple of options.
Yeah, for a guy who was like a very good planner, his reaction and planning in those situations were like the best.
And I thought about this, actually. Funny that you mentioned that about planning. That was also a note that I made. He had really thought out plans, systems, etc., but they didn't appear to have any systems for like live distractions. So
Right. There was the cake timer, the egg timer, just random stuff that they could find. But
right,
there was
so
like,
if you know that at some point you're going to encounter these beings, maybe up close, I would think you have like a bag of like socks filled with maybe like a large rock that you can throw.
okay, I was gonna say socks are very loud. I was like,
No, I say socks because you have to muffle. So I thought about this. I thought about this a lot, Amado.
you want a bag of socks? That's your plan to make a lot of noise?
The problem is you can't have too many things on your person because if they rattle, you're fucked.
Right.
But if you have, muffling, like, rocks covered in socks or whatever, any kind of padding.
Okay. But you just didn't want a bag of just balled up gym socks.
No.
Okay. Just making
It would
sure.
have just pissed them
I
off.
wanted to clarify for the listeners, them.
But yeah, it was a little disheartening to see that level of planning. And then it's like, well, I'm out of ideas now. I'm just going to, get myself killed.
Right.
I don't have another full scenes. I just have a couple of come on fams and funny stuff. Like I said, this movie is was pretty short.
So it's about hour 30 minutes if you haven't seen it. It's a good watch. Okay, so let me just ask my one glaring question that I thought was going to be my demise instantly. What if you snore?
Ooh, I mean, Denari would have been dead. That's me.
Amado's
right?
gone. Yo, son. One time
Yeah.
I was on a plane and I fell asleep and the stewardess came back to be like, is he okay? I was a kid and my parents were awake and I was snoring so loud. They were like, is he okay? the pilot asked if something wrong with the plane.
That reminded me of the Big Pun skit, on Yeah Baby, where
yeah. Ear pun.
where the steward just goes to him. Yeah, air pun.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about it overall, but I thought about a couple of things. Just how difficult it is to stay completely quiet.
But snoring, I
Yeah.
mean, like, we're done. Like,
You can't
that's
control
it.
that, yeah.
First night, right? You can't
It
control
looked like they slept underground, maybe. Maybe that helped.
It's involuntary.
It's consistent, yeah.
You don't know when you're doing it.
And it's hours at a time, so
Yeah, it's not like you're gonna
Mhm.
snore and be like, "Oh, I snored." Especially when you're first getting used to not making any noise, you're dead off.
it's a good point. There's a lot of things. There's
Blowing your nose, like
you better not do any kind of forcible motion and let one out because you might die.
you could crack a knee really, like you said, you crack your foot really hard.
That's the thing that came up immediately. My family, it runs that all our joints just crack. I'll tell you a little story. My mother, when I used to live with my mother, it was completely dark, but I would know my sister was coming down the hallway because I could hear her ankles cracking as she came
Jeez.
closer.
Wow, okay. Jeez.
So she could never try to sneak anywhere.
It's a wrap for her. She would
Yeah.
not survive a quiet place.
No, it's over.
So now we're gonna go into the come on fam scenes. If you're new, come on fams are just scenes where you were like, come on fam, this just doesn't make sense. It wasn't maybe necessarily a full scene, but something quick that just really didn't work. So go ahead.
One of my come on fam scenes is so when Evelyn's reminiscing about her, dead son, she's in there and then she starts getting contractions because we hadn't covered this, but she's pregnant. Which why
So,
I don't
can
know.
we just talk about that real quick? We have to take a
Yes,
we have to take a
We can pause
sidebar. Yeah, that's a really good segue to one of my notes. Because that's a come on fam. Come on fam.
Yeah, I thought of the same thing. I was like,
She didn't get pregnant before this situation started. I did everything in my power to try to confirm that wasn't the case.
no, and I think they purposely gave us the days so that you knew that
Yeah.
it couldn't have possibly been
Before.
the other kid died.
So I have his
Yeah.
pullout game is trash and poor decision making, a fucking baby. But then she comes down the stairs all frisky and wants to dance and look all sexy and all that stuff. Fam.
I mean, when you don't got to work, so there's a lot of time for fucking.
But sir, How it's quiet sex is very difficult. You have kids, you understand this. So
Yes, it is very Yeah, quiet sex is very difficult, but the will to fuck wins all.
I guess. I don't know. Because I don't want to die in the middle. One of the things I've always tried to been avoiding. I don't want to die before, in the middle, or immediately after. Just don't.
Hey, if we know from people getting killed in stupid ass situations while having sex, you know that sometimes you just want to have sex.
So that being said, I thought that was bad decision making. Like,
I thought about
better.
contraception. I was like, maybe it's all expired, maybe it's all gone because people thought about this. I guess we can't 100% blame them because I guess the other alternative is never having sex.
I guess I know. I don't.
Yeah, it just seemed like a very risky situation to put yourself in because at the end of it all, you're gonna end up with a baby, and babies are not very well known for being quiet.
Yes. They're unruly little things that scream when they want. Like
I think of all the possible situations, this is one of like the worst ones to be in. One, because of the noise factor, and then you have a tiny person to take care of now. That didn't go so hot the first time, you know.
Well, they're 2 for 3. You can't be mad at that.
Damn. That'll get you in the Hall of Fame.
Right. Yeah, if I win 2 out of 3 championships, I'm a great player.
So as I was saying,
so go ahead. So she was pregnant.
Yeah, so she was pregnant, and she starts getting contractions when she's up in the room hanging out, and for some reason she decides to walk down with a photo frame, and she stabs herself in the foot with a loose nail and drops the thing, of course, and it makes the most noise possible. So that was like, why would you walk around
with glass?
Like you make the kids roll on a rug when they're rolling dice, and you're walking around with essentially a death trap in your hand to go down steps.
So leading up to that, my issue was she's going up the stairs. The laundry bag gets caught. She knows the bag is caught on something, right?
And just pulls.
She just pulls it. Kids going about her business. Why didn't she check what it was stuck on? That bothered me because everything in that place was perfectly placed for a reason. So when something went wrong, you needed to check why it went wrong because it could cause more issues.
I have definitely seen many people be the brute force kind. So I give her a little pass there. I think it was established that the dad was like the ultimate survivor, and they were kind of just.
But she was extra brute force with it. That's my only issue. She didn't go back and go, I wonder what that was stuck on.
The stuck part is bad, but then also, what if it would have made noise, you pulling it that way, you know? What if you would have ripped something?
That's what I thought too. But then that scene, though, as a plot piece is great because it was very agonizing when she steps on the nail.
Yeah, you knew it was coming. It was definitely not something that was surprising. You were waiting to see how.
And for her to just gasp instead of screaming was pretty like, oof, that was a lot.
Exactly. So what got her in trouble was a stupid frame.
And she's probably going to need a tetanus shot. How do you get a tetanus shot in this world? Because that nail was dirty.
That was pretty bad. Dirty, and it was not a small nail, man.
No, it broke skin. So
broke skin is putting it lightly. That thing almost came out the top.
Right. So she's definitely gonna need a tetanus shot. Where do you get one of those?
It was rough.
She's about to be one leg Sally in the next movie.
So my other come on fam scene is when Lee finally makes it back to the house after he sees the red lights, and he's looking for Evelyn. And we know that she was in the bathtub last with the monster. The monster left, and she yelled and gave birth. Lee walks into the bathroom. He's looking for her. He sees a bathtub full of blood, but no Evelyn in sight. And then she slaps her hand on the glass. And I was like, come on, man. I know you just had a baby, but like a little subtlety couldn't have hurt.
Right.
Because we know at that point she obviously didn't think he was a monster, or she wouldn't have done that. It's like, so why scare the shit out of your husband like that?
Oh, so you're talking about it scary versus calling the monsters.
I'm talking about her getting herself shot too.
Right. Like the dude from fucking Halloween.
Yes. Like, why do people do this? So Lee does that in that scene, and then Marcus, the son, does it to Reagan in the cornfields. When she's looking for him, she sees the flashlight, and he grabs her arm. He grabs her arm from under the tractor. I'm like, are you trying to get each other to scream? Like, are you trying to get killed? Like, I don't understand. So this is one of the tropes that I usually see in scary movies. It's like, stop doing these jump scares to each other when you're trying to be low. So that was my next come on fam scene. And then my last one was when they were underground after Evelyn gave birth. They took the baby downstairs and Evelyn's talking to Lee. She's like, if we can't protect them, who are we? And then she goes, you have to protect them. Like, way to put pressure on him.
Right. He had a lot of pressure on him. That's a real good point. Like, he had a lot of pressure on him this entire movie, and you could like feel it.
Yeah, it was palpable.
All or nothing. Yeah.
He was trying to fix the daughter's hearing. He was trying to figure out what their weakness was. He had the whole operation. He's trying to contact people across like the world.
Other people, right? Exactly. He had a lot on his plate.
It was not the nicest thing to say to a person under a lot of stress. It's like, by the way, you make sure nobody dies. It's like, yeah, I've kind of been doing that for this whole time. Thanks.
Right. Seems to be my job already, so I didn't need this.
But yeah, that was my last come on fam scene. And then I have a bunch of funny stuff, but you can start with yours.
So one of my funny things is them playing Monopoly in silence.
Yeah.
I thought that could never happen in a real house.
Monopoly ends
There's
relationships, all right?
Yeah, like that's a fight to begin to like. There's a lot less contentious games they could have played other than Monopoly. So I thought that was pretty funny.
The fact that they didn't have the characters, that they were using these other like replacement fluffy things.
Felts,
yeah, felts. That right. Made it like 80% less likely that a fight would start from the beginning. Yeah. Because that's the first fight.
Using felt. What are we fighting for?
Right, that's the first fight. Yo, I want the I want the car. No, I want the iron.
Right.
So something that I found funny was poor Marcus. They have him learning division during the end of the world. I'm like, that has to suck.
But I also thought that, but I also thought you never know what could happen. So he might be like the leader. He might need to teach everybody else division in 10 years. He might be the only one left. So you have to make sure that information is passed down somehow.
When they start to like repopulate or a civilization starts to build up again.
Yeah. He could be an important teacher. He could be a prophet. He could be a leader. He could have an important position in society during the rebuild. So he may need that information. Or he could die tomorrow and might not.
Yeah, and he'll be like, yo, his last breath will be fuck division.
Right? I couldn't divide. But no, I thought about both of those. I was like, oh, that's stupid. And I was like, nah.
I could definitely, being educated in general and knowing how to read and stuff like that, all that is definitely useful.
Especially in that kind of environment, right?
But it's the end of the world. And it's like, and I still got to go to school.
Mom, I thought it was interesting to make the daughter deaf. I thought that was a really, really interesting plot twist because she can't even hear if she makes a noise.
So I thought that was a pretty refreshing angle for a horror movie. And I thought they did a good job of incorporating the sign language. So we're going to get into our overall reviews now. And I'll start with this one. So I thought the movie had a refreshing angle, like I said, in the horror genre. It had some jump scares, but it wasn't really about the jump scares too much. It was more about the suspense and the soundscape, as I mentioned earlier. It was more about experiencing the daughter's view of the world. I thought that intertwining her deaf character, Reagan, her deaf world with the hearing world of the other characters, I thought it was really original and added like an additional level of suspense, as you mentioned. You know, I saw the movie in the movie theater and it was an experience, and they likened it to the old school silent movies because that's a little bit of the experience that you felt when you were watching it in the movie theaters. It was dead quiet. You could hear the popcorn crunching, and it made it that much more enjoyable, or not enjoyable, but just I would say enthralling.
I was gonna say, I guess
when you heard the noises.
Enjoyable is relative.
Right. I corrected myself. I don't know if enjoyable because some folks might have been like, oh, nothing happened. You know, I couldn't hear anything. But I thought the movie was very brief, an hour and 30 minutes. And I think that was definitely a strength. But I would say it did make it feel light on the plot side of things, how the action was broken up. So while it was, brief, and for a horror movie, I think that usually helps. Not that much happened if you think about it. Again, the sound overall was great, and having the audience kind of think through how everything we do makes a sound and the reality of how difficult it could be to stay alive under those circumstances. I think that was pretty cool as well, because I was just thinking the whole time after I came out of there, like, yeah, like you said, I don't know if I could make it.
Nah, I would
It's
have been
pretty
dead.
damn
Right.
tough. Overall, they had some horror movie tropes, as they mostly all do, but they weren't too bad. And I am looking forward to part 2, which Amado actually brought up to me this week. He said that they're filming, or they're scouting.
Yeah, they're scouting areas. They're looking in the local area around my region. Okay, so for me, I didn't love this movie. So there's this episode of Grey's. We talked about Grey's before. You ever watched Grey's?
Yes.
There's an episode of Grey's that's just like this movie, where I think Meredith is silent, and you could hear her thinking, but she can't talk out loud.
Oh, she
And I
has
remember
the
watching it
trapped in
with-
syndrome. Is that it?
Yes. No. She doesn't have the shot. She gets like hit or something. I can't remember what happens. But it's an episode's a very silent episode with very, very few words throughout the entire episode. And I remember watching with Elizabeth and her losing her freaking mind. She was like, "Speak!"
Yeah, this movie had about 25 lines.
Yeah, I don't love that particularly. I don't love the soundscape like you love the soundscape. I thought it was a good movie. It was okay. Yeah, I didn't see it in the theater. And obviously the theater adds a layer of complexity that you wouldn't get just watching it at home. I could acknowledge that.
I agree. On second watch, it wasn't as enthralling. This is my third watch, actually, but I was excited to see it again after the movie theater, and it didn't land the same way, I would admit.
Yeah, and I could see that. So it just didn't have like you said, a lot didn't happen. I thought there was a lot of room for a good story, but they didn't really tell a story. Well, they didn't tell any background story. They told the story of the family in this moment, but not really how they got in this moment. What led to it? Anything? Are there any governments? And I know he might not know what's outside of his town, but he has like some information, but a limited amount. But he gathered as much information as he could. So I could have used more story, more where they came from, and obviously since there's a sequel, that might be covered in the sequel and fleshed out a little more, hopefully. But
Yeah.
I just didn't love that. I loved over the overarching story of you have to be quiet, you can't make a sound. I love that thought. I didn't love this movie. I wouldn't have watched it twice if I didn't have to, by any means. I didn't even see the end the first time, and I wasn't really that hurt. Seeing it the second time was like, oh, okay, this is how it ended. I could see. And I also hate that we don't know, with all the monsters attacking, what happened. It just ended on the cliffhanger. I hate that.
Yeah, I think it was presumed
So-
that they were gonna be victorious because they found their weakness. But I felt like for a movie that had very little real action, that could have been a great scene to maybe end the movie on.
Right, even if they just all explode as they approach, that would have been interesting. Especially once, because they avoided using the shotgun, she uses the shotgun. We know that they're going to be coming because that noise is a super loud noise. And they all should be in the area anyway because of the fireworks. So I just thought it ended like... And again, if you have plans for a sequel, I understand ending it on a quick cliffhanger. I just didn't like it. I wanted to know whether they won or not. I think they did. They might not have. We don't really know. Yeah, not the greatest movie for me. Not super my type of movie. That's it.
Like I said, yeah, I would agree. The allure was definitely lost outside of the movie theater, but I think it stayed with me because that was my original watching.
Well, and I could also see how if you're not into like words and shit, if you don't like to hear people talking, this might be the movie for you. If you like really quick conversations.
I think that's actually pretty interesting because I am definitely a fan of those kind of movies. There's a movie called All Is Lost with Robert Redford, and there's maybe 2 lines of dialogue in the entire movie because it's a survival movie and like a lone survivor, and I love that movie. And there's another one that I just watched a couple weeks ago called...
You like that stupid movie with Tom Hanks and the ball?
Oh, Castaway? Yeah, I love Castaway too.
Yeah, you love
Very
seeing
dialogue there. So there's
Yeah.
I definitely am a fan of movies that have more of like a story to show as opposed to just having dialogue.
So, real quick to jump back to the Grey's Anatomy episode, she gets attacked. She's attacked and sustained an injury, and she's trying to get people to notice that she's been injured. And it just plays an hour of pretty much almost damn near silence. And it was really rough.
Oh.
It was really.
I don't think I've watched that one.
And it was directed by Denzel Washington. So
interesting.
he's made another appearance. It's actually really. I think you would really enjoy that episode based on this conversation.
You know what? I might look for it. I might go looking for it.
Yeah,
it's like they're up to season 12 or something like that. So I might have to do.
Hold
some
on,
searching,
season
but
12,
I'll find it, I'm
episode
sure.
9. Season 12, episode 9.
Look at that. So wait, so
I
this is
just-
recent?
I-
No, I thought they were up to season 12.
No, we're on season like 16, 17.
Oh, never mind.
Because I'm in the Grey's Anatomy's family, guys. Just letting everybody know that. Okay. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Only a Movies Pod.
Let us know what movies you want us to cover in the future by responding to our Instagram stories, questions, or leaving a comment on any of our pages. We look forward to hearing from you guys, and definitely reach out to us.
Thanks for joining us. Join us next time for more things that happen only in movies.